For 10 years, you watched me grow up on television. You saw the big house. You saw the private planes. You saw the brand deals. People calculated that my family had made over $25 million. So why was I, Jill Duggar, visiting a food bank to feed my children? Why was I scavenging for free meals while my face was selling magazines at every grocery store in America? The answer is a single word my father used to control us: a volunteer. He told us we were serving God. He told us the money didn't matter. But while we were volunteering our lives away, he was building an empire in his name. I didn't want to sue my own father. No daughter does. But when I asked for what was mine, just enough to pay my medical bills, he told me I owed him. That was the moment the dutiful daughter died. I'm Jill. And today I'm opening the books. I'm showing you the contracts, the threats, and the price I had to pay to finally buy my freedom. If you drove past our house in Tonatown, Arkansas, you saw a mansion, 7,000 square feet, a steel frame, industrial kitchens to the outside world. It looked like a castle built by a self-made millionaire, and inside we had everything: a pantry stocked like a grocery store, a prayer closet, a fleet of vehicles. But here is the catch: none of it was ours, being exposed. When I say ours, I mean the children who actually lived there and filmed the show that paid for it. We were told from a very young age that everything belonged to the family pot, but the pot had a lid and only one person had the key. My father, Jim Bob. I remember being 18, 19 years old. I was working full time, not just filming, which was a job in itself, but raising my siblings, cooking for 20 people, and managing the household. If I wanted to buy a coffee, I had to ask. If I wanted to buy a gift for a friend, I asked. There's no allowance. There were no paychecks. There was just daddy's money. I lived in a mansion, but I was financially a child. I had no credit score. I had no savings account. I was a grown woman with a global platform, yet I owned absolutely nothing but the clothes in my closet, and even those were often hand-me-downs. The illusion was perfect. We looked like American royalty, but in reality, we were just tenants in a landlord's game. How do you convince 19 people to work for free? You don't call it work. You call it ministry. That was the magic word, ministry. When the cameras were rolling, Dad would tell us, we are sharing our testimony with the world. We are showing people how a godly family lives. He made us believe that demanding money would be sinful. He made us feel like if we asked for a paycheck, we were being greedy. We were serving God, not TLC. So we signed contracts we didn't read. We sat for hours of interviews. We let strangers film our most private moments, our births, our courtships, our tears. And we did it all for the ministry. But looking back, now I see the truth. Ministry doesn't have a CEO. Ministry doesn't have multi-million-dollar real estate investments. My father wasn't running a church. He was running a production company, and his children were the unpaid actors who were too afraid of hell to ask for their residuals. He weaponized our faith against us. He used God to pad his bank account. And that is the part that hurts the most. When I married Derick, I thought things would change. I thought, okay, I'm an adult now. I'm a wife. I'll finally have access to my share. But the money didn't come. Derick had a job as an accountant at Walmart, but we were young. We were starting out, and we were still filming Counting On. The show was a massive hit. Millions of people were tuning in to watch my wedding, my birth, my life. People assumed we were set for life. I remember standing in the grocery store aisle, looking at the price of milk and doing mental math to see if we could afford it. Meanwhile, my face was on the cover of the magazine in the checkout rack next to me. The magazine said, J-A-L-S, Lilo, U-X-U-R-Y. My wallet said declined. It was humiliating. Fans would come up to us and say, "Oh, you guys must be so rich." And I would just smile and nod because I couldn't tell them the truth. I couldn't tell them that the check for the show they just watched went straight to my dad's LLC, and I hadn't seen a dime of it. Derick started asking questions. He said, "Jill, this isn't right. You are the star of the show. Why are we struggling to pay rent?" I didn't have an answer. All I had was the fear that if I asked for money, I would be cut off from the only family I knew. There is a specific memory that haunts me. We were struggling, really struggling. Derick was in law school later on. We had kids, and the medical bills from my difficult births were piling up. We needed food. Jill Duggar, daughter of the wealthy Jim Bob Duggar, reality TV star, drove to a food pantry. I remember pulling my hat down low. I was terrified someone would recognize me. Can you imagine the headline? Duggar daughter begging for food. I walked in and took the free box of canned vegetables and rice. I felt grateful, but I also felt a deep burning shame. Not because there is shame in needing help, there isn't, but because I knew why I was there. Wasn't there because the show failed. The show was making millions. I was there because my father refused to pay me for the work I had done since I was a child. Driving home with that box of food in the passenger seat, something broke inside me. I looked at the cans and thought, my dad has a private plane and I am eating donated beans. That was the moment the sadness turned into anger. The turning point wasn't emotional. It was legal. It started with a letter from the IRS. We got a notice saying we owed taxes on income we never received. Apparently, on paper, Dad had been claiming that he paid us. He was shifting money around in his tax filings to lower his own burden, listing huge sums as gift income or payments to his children. But we never got that money. So the IRS looked at us and said, "You owe taxes on this income." And we said, "What?" That was when the curtain fell. Derick looked at the papers and his lawyer brain kicked in. He realized this wasn't just stinginess. This was tax fraud. This was financial manipulation on a massive scale. My dad had been using our names, our social security numbers, and our identities to shield his wealth. He wasn't just keeping the money. He was leaving us with the bill. That tax notice was the smoking gun. It was the proof that we weren't just volunteers. We were employees who were being exploited. And that was when Derick said, "We need a lawyer." When you grow up in my world, you are taught that men are the authority. You don't question your father. You don't read the fine print. You just sign where he points. But I married a man who reads the fine print. Derick wasn't just my husband. He was becoming a lawyer. And when the IRS questions started, he demanded to see the contracts I had signed over the years. Getting those documents from my dad was like pulling teeth. He stalled. He made excuses. He said, "Oh, you don't need to worry your pretty little head about that." But Derick persisted. When we finally got eyes on the paperwork, the room went cold. The contracts were horrifying. They were designed to strip me of every right I had. They granted TLC and my father the rights to my life, my image, my children's births in perpetuity. That means forever. And the compensation section, it was structured so that the money flowed to a single entity, Mad Family Inc., my father's company. There was no clause for me, no trust fund, no trust savings. Derick looked up from the papers, his face pale, and said, "Jill, you didn't just sign a contract, you signed a death warrant for your freedom." I realized then that my father hadn't been protecting me. He had been harvesting me. Before we went to court, I tried the daughter approach. I still loved my dad. I wanted to believe this was a mistake. I went to the big house. I sat down with him. I was shaking. I said, "Dad, we are struggling. We have medical bills. The show has made millions. Can we just have a little bit of what I earned? Just enough to pay our debts?" I expected him to say, "Of course, sweetie. Let me fix this." Instead, his face changed. The smiling TV dad vanished. He looked at me with ice in his eyes and said, "You are being greedy." He told me that I should be grateful for the exposure. He told me that he had paid for my grocery bills when I was growing up, as if feeding his own child was a loan I had to repay. He gaslighted me. He twisted scripture. He told me that asking for money was a sign of a rebellious spirit. I walked out of that office crying, not because I didn't get the money, but because I realized that to him wasn't a daughter in need. I was a business asset that had stopped performing. The conflict didn't stay in the office. It spilled over into our phones. When Derick started pushing harder for the financial records, my dad exploded. I will never forget the text messages. They were unhinged. He wasn't just angry, he was threatened. He knew that if the truth came out, his entire empire, the wholesome family brand, would crumble. He threatened to cut us off completely. He threatened to smear Derick's reputation. He accused us of attacking the family. It was like talking to a madman. I would look at my phone and physically flinch. Every buzz was a new wave of anxiety. This was the man who taught me to ride a bike. This was the man who walked me down the aisle. And now he was texting me like a mob boss protecting his territory. That was the hardest part to reconcile. The father I loved versus the businessman I feared. I realized they were the same person, and that was the most terrifying thought of all. After months of back and forth, Dad finally said he would settle up with us. He said he had what he thought we deserved for our time on the show. I had spent over a decade on TV. I had given birth on camera twice. My wedding was one of the highest rated episodes in TLC history. He sent us a check. Do you want to know how much it was for? It wasn't $1 million. It wasn't $10,000. It was calculated at minimum wage, an hourly rate for being a reality TV star. And after he deducted the expenses, he claimed we owed him for food, for housing, for things he gave us as gifts. The final amount was insulting. It was basically gas money. Looking at that check, it was a slap in the face. It was his way of saying, this is what you are worth to me. Nothing. That check was the final straw. I tore it up. I didn't want his crumbs. Justice. In the fundamentalist world, suing another believer is forbidden. Suing your own father, that is the ultimate sin. The Bible verse 1 Corinthians 6 was quoted to me 1,000 times. Dare any of you, having a matter against another, go to law before the unrighteous? I wrestle with God over this. I prayed. I cried. I felt like I was betraying everything I was taught. But then Derick opened the Bible to a different verse. He showed me scriptures about justice, about oppressive rulers, about how a laborer is worthy of his hire. He said, Jill, enabling abuse isn't biblical. Letting him steal from you isn't honoring him. It's allowing him to sin. That shifted my perspective. Suing him wasn't about hate. It was about accountability. It was about saying no to a bully who had used God as a shield for too long. We filed the paperwork. We knew it would cost us everything. Our family, our reputation, our safety net. But we did it. We sued Bob Duggar. And that was the day I truly became an adult. We didn't go to dramatic courtroom trial with a jury. It happened in a conference room. It's called mediation. On one side of the table, me and Derick. On the other side, my father's high-priced legal team. And somewhere in the background, my father himself refusing to make eye contact. The atmosphere was sterile. There was no love in that room. It was purely transactional. To them, I was a disgruntled employee. To me, I was a daughter asking for her wages. They threw everything at us. They argued that because I was a minor when the show started, I had no rights. They argued that because I lived in the house, that was my payment. They tried to value every meal I ever ate at the Duggar table against the millions of dollars the show earned. It was calculated cruelty. Derick was brilliant. He knew the law. He pointed out the fraud. He pointed out the lack of consent. He cut through their bullying with facts. But sitting there, listening to lawyers reduce my childhood to a line item on a spreadsheet, it broke something in me. I realized that to my father, my life was just content and my freedom was just a liability he had to manage. After days of fighting, we reached a number. I can't tell you the exact dollar amount because, ironically, there are still legal bindings. But I can tell you this, it wasn't a fortune. People think I walked away with millions. I didn't. It was barely minimum wage for the decade of work I did. It was enough to pay off our legal fees, pay off our medical debt, and put a down payment on a modest house. That's it. But the real value of that settlement wasn't the cash. It was the separation. Taking that money meant I was officially paid out. It meant I was no longer an employee of Bob Duggar. It severed the financial umbilical cord that he had used to strangle us for years. When the check cleared, go buy a luxury car. I bought groceries. I bought therapy. I bought peace of mind. We lost the potential for millions, yes. If I had stayed quiet, maybe one day I would have inherited a piece of the empire, but I traded that inheritance for my integrity. That was a bargain. There was a price for the settlement, and it wasn't just legal fees. My father made it very clear, if you take this money, you are out. He meant out of the trust, out of the will, out of the future. He told the other siblings that Derick and I were attacking the family, and because of that, we were being disinherited. He used money as a weapon to keep the others in line. The message to them was clear. Look what happened to Jill. Do you want to end up like her? Being told by your father that you are no longer his heir is a deep, primal rejection. It says, you are no longer mine. But honestly, it was a relief. Inheritance in my family comes with strings. It comes with silence. It comes with obedience. To be disinherited meant I was finally free from the puppet master. I would rather be poor and free than rich and owned. The scariest part of the settlement wasn't the money. It was the NDA. Non-disclosure agreements are standard in Hollywood, but my dad wanted a gag order on his own daughter. He wanted me to sign a contract that said I would never, ever speak negatively about him, the ministry, or the show. If I signed it, I would get more money. If I signed it, I would be restored to the family. He was trying to buy my voice. He knew I had a story. He knew I knew where the bodies were buried. Figuratively speaking, he knew about the abuse cover-ups, the financial lies, the manipulation. He was terrified that I would write a book. And look at me now. Derick looked at the NDA and said, Jill, if you sign this, you can never tell your truth. You will carry these secrets to your grave. I looked at that paper. It was tempting. It was easy money. Just sign, shut up, and be comfortable. But I thought about my sons. I thought about the other victims. I pushed the paper back across the table. I said, no, I took less money so that I could keep my voice. And that decision is the reason I can speak to you today. The fallout was immediate. Once the lawsuit was over, the family dynamic changed. I became the dangerous sister. My dad controlled the narrative. He told my siblings that Derick was greedy, that we were stealing from the family pot. My sisters, Jessa, Joy, the ones I raised, they stopped coming over. They stopped texting as much. I wasn't invited to the big family gatherings at the big house. I became an outsider in the family I helped build. It hurts. I won't lie. Seeing them all together on Instagram, having coffee while I sit at home, it stings. I know they are still in the system. They are still under his thumb. They have to play by his rules to survive. I lost my place at the table, but I gained my own table. My house is small, but the door is unlocked. My love doesn't come with a contract. I miss them, but I don't miss the cage. The day we bought our current house, it wasn't because it was the biggest house in the world. It's a normal house. It doesn't have industrial kitchens or prayer closets, but it has something the big house never had. It is ours. My name is on the deed. Derick's name is on the deed. Not Mad Family Inc., not Jim Bob Duggar. Just us. We paid for it with money we fought for. Every brick in this house represents a battle we won. When I walk into my kitchen, I know that no one can kick me out. No one can threaten to take it away if I wear jeans or pierce my nose. There is a specific kind of peace that comes with financial independence. I can buy my kids' toys without guilt. I can donate to charities I believe in. We are building a legacy here. Not a legacy of fame, but a legacy of freedom. This roof over my head is the tangible proof that we escaped. Writing my book, counting the cost, was the hardest thing I've ever done. People asked, Jill, why drag it up again? Why not just move on? I wrote it because silence is the abuser's best friend. For years, the world was sold a lie. They were sold a picture, perfect family, where everyone was happy and holy. My father made millions selling that lie. I had to write the truth to reclaim my own history. I wanted the world to know that what you saw on TV was a performance. I wanted to validate the feelings of every other child who has been used by their parents. It wasn't about revenge. It was about the record. When the book came out, I was terrified. I expected backlash. And I got some. My father released a statement saying he loved us, but was saddened by my actions. The classic PR move. But the messages I got from strangers, people saying, Jill, your story saved me, or I left a cult because of you. That made every terrifying moment worth it. The truth is heavy, but it sets you free. Even after the lawsuit, even after the book, there are still secrets. Derick and I uncovered a lot, but the Duggar financial web is deep. My father isn't just a TV dad. He is a real estate mogul. He owns commercial properties, land, and houses all over Arkansas. He buys them cheap, flips them using family labor, and sells them for profit. During our legal battle, we saw glimpses of how the money moves. Shell companies, LLCs, trusts within trusts. It's designed to be confusing. It's designed so that if one person sues, the money is already hidden somewhere else. I often wonder how much is really there. Is it 20 million? 50 million? I'll probably never know the full extent of his wealth. And honestly, I don't care anymore. He can keep the money. He can keep the empire. He can keep the private planes because all that money can't buy him what I have. A relationship with my children that isn't based on a contract. He is the richest man in Tontatown, but in the ways that matter, he is incredibly poor. People always ask me, Jill, do you forgive your dad? The answer is yes. As a Christian, I forgive him. I don't carry hate in my heart. Hate is a heavy burden, and I put that down a long time ago. But forgiveness is not the same as trust. I can forgive him for stealing my wages, but I won't give him the keys to my bank account again. I can forgive him for the manipulation, but I won't let him babysit my children alone. We have boundaries now. Strong, steel boundaries. We see him occasionally at big events. We are polite. We say hello. But the intimacy is gone. The daddy's girl is gone. He is my father, and I love him from a distance. But I know who he is now. And once you see the wolf, you don't pretend he's a sheep just because he's family. I want to end this story with a message to anyone who feels trapped. Whether you are in a high control religion, a toxic marriage, or a family that uses money to control you, please listen. You are worth more than what you can produce for someone else. My father told me I was nothing without him. He told me I would fail. He told me I would be destitute. He was wrong. I'm standing here today, not as Jill Duggar, the reality star, but as Jill Dillard, the free woman. I I have my scars. I have my trauma. But I also have my voice. We broke this cycle. My sons will never know what it feels like to work for a parent's approval. They will never have to sign an NDA to be loved. They will know that they are worthy just because they exist. If I can walk away from $1 million empire to save my soul, you can walk away too. It costs everything to leave. But I promise you, freedom is worth every penny. I'm Jill, and this was my story.